All right. Today we're going to take a look at how to describe a graph in German. So Beschreibung einer Grafik. Grafik is feminine, die Grafik. Therefore, this is the genitive case. This is a description of a graph. Beschreibung einer Grafik. So it's taking the genitive form. These are other words, die Grafik und weitere Wörter. Other words you might use instead of graph. Die Grafik, das Schaubild, das Diagramm, die Tabelle, die Statistik, Daten, data, and all of these could be used. Do note the genders. So you have D, and these two are das, neuter or sächlich. So weiblich, 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 sächlich, sächlich. So how could we describe a graph? If you are given a graph in German, you're going to want to be able to talk about it. So this is an example of an infographic. Wie lange bleibt der Müll im Wasser? How long does trash stay in the water? And something you're just probably going to want to take a look at. But how could you talk about the things that you note and observe in this graph? So I'm going to help you go through 5 sentences minimum, at least, to talk about a graph, and some sentence starters to help you. So the first is like a topic sentence. You want to describe the topic or theme. So Thema beschreiben. Ways you can do that, you could pick these 2 verbs. So like from es gibt, yeah, there is, gives, zeigt, to show. So die Grafik zeigt Auskunft. Die Grafik zeigt Information. Both of these 2 words mean the same thing. Or die Grafik gibt Auskunft. It gives information. It gives Information. Über, about what? About blah, blah, blah. You could simply just say die Grafik zeigt. The graph shows how much trash is in the ocean and how long it takes to decompose. So something like that. You could also take a look at using darstellen or wird dargestellt as a passive voice. So something is depicted or is represented. So darstellen is to depict or to represent, to illustrate even. So blah, 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 whatever it is. So in der Grafik, in the graph, is trash in the ocean depicted. Das, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm saying blah, blah, blah a lot, sorry, but das is a subordinating conjunction, and as a subordinating conjunction, the verb, the conjugated verb, goes at the end of that clause. So watch out for those. So first is, what's the graph about? Second, we got to know the source. We have to figure out, hey, where's this coming from? Who's giving us these stats? All right. So the Datenquelle, Quelle is source. And we would say, woher stammen die Daten? Like, where from stems this data or information. Die Daten stammen von. So von is a wonderful dative preposition. Bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, zu. So as a dative preposition, we have to make sure that whatever the source is, if it's feminine, we would say von der, because it's becoming dative. If it's something that is neuter or masculine, we would say von dem or vom. So vom is von dem as a contraction. The same holds true with aus. So I could say die Daten stammen aus der. Der will be for the feminine use. Should probably move that over. And then aus dem would be for neuter or masculine sources. So something else to kind of watch out for. So you could use von or aus. Both of those are dative prepositions. You could also just say die Quelle der Zahlen ist, right? The source of the numbers, the data is blank, and fill that blank in. Next up is time. So how relevant and how recent is this data? The older the data, might not be so helpful anymore. So, von wann sind die Daten? What's the time period of this? Once again, we have a dative preposition in the first sentence construct. So if I wanted to say die Zahlen stammen aus dem Jahr, so they come from the year, das Jahr becomes dem Jahr. Or if it's more than 1 year, maybe it's 1999 and 2000, then you could do plural. You could also look at the time period and use umfassen. So the time period umfasst encompasses, incorporates, is comprised of die Jahre, the years, von bis. So von 2000 bis 2022. So from the years 2000 to 2022. So if it's a longer period of time, maybe you can even think of a Raum being a big space. How much can go in there? You could use the umfasst. Now we get to the bulk of the material and what we need to note. So, Auffälligkeiten. These would be like distinctive features, things that are noticeable. So, Auffälligkeiten beschreiben. So, what's noticed? Look at the graph and describe it. And you're going to probably want a couple sentences with this information. And here are some easy sentence starters. So, besonders auffallend ist, especially noticeable is, or es ist auffällig, it's noticed das, that, blah, 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 verb at the end. Because that's a subordinating conjunction, right? It's noticeable that it takes 20 million years for XYZ to decompose in the ocean, something like that. You can also use this opportunity to use those comparatives and superlatives. So our comparatives, größer, kleiner, bigger, smaller, höher, niedriger, higher, lower. You could also use this opportunity to use those superlatives. Am größten, am kleinsten, the biggest or the largest and the smallest. Am höchsten, am niedrigsten, the highest and the lowest. And then this is a great gem to think about. Ungefähr or genau. Ungefähr means approximately, and genau means exactly. So you could use or not use those, but then use these verbs, these adjectives as well. So, as blah 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 ist genau so groß wie blah blah blah. So something is exactly as big as something. So so wie is what you would use for those comparatives and superlatives. And you'll probably want to have a couple sentences just talking about, well, what do you notice? Then we get to the meat of it. So now you've made all these observations, you've looked at the data, you have to put it together. What do you observe? All right? Right? So the Entwicklung is a development, but also a trend. So observed trends. So you can't just note the data. Those are just the numbers. Now you have to analyze and interpret the data. So a great easy sentence starter is es ist zu beobachten. It's observed, das, blah, 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 with the verb. It's observed that plastic takes the longest to decompose, blah, blah, blah. So whatever you think about in the graph that you are looking at. Once again, really think about using these comparatives and superlatives in additional sentences to really make your observations pop. So, you're welcome to find a graph on your own. You can certainly take a look at this one and see if you are able to notice anything, if you want to write about it, or find your own German language graph and start thinking about how you would write about a graph or speak about a graph with these easy sentence starters. Viel Glück, viel Spaß!